President Trump is trying to put the political firestorm over the Jeffrey Epstein case behind him, but admits his administration's attempts to unseal grand jury records related to the convicted sex offender may not be enough.
That we've never seen, and they shed new light on his relationship with President Trump.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
Outrage is erupting across the country once again. The Department of Justice just made new moves in the Epstein investigation. But for millions of Americans, especially Trump supporters, it's far from enough. Headlines may read, "Justice Department pursues Epstein accomplices." But the reaction from the America First crowd? Too late, too calculated, too convenient. Social media is ablaze with questions. Why now? Who's being protected? And where are the real names, the powerful ones? The DOJ may think it's turning a page on one of America's darkest scandals, but Trump's base sees a cover-up still unfolding in plain sight. And in an election year, that changes everything. For many Trump supporters, the Epstein Saga is about more than one monster's crimes. It's about institutional betrayal.
I'd like to answer that question, at least today. I'm going to have to assert my fifth.
They remember the mainstream media's silence when the Epstein flight logs were leaked. They remember how quickly the cameras vanished after Epstein was found dead in his cell under circumstances many still label suspicious. These Americans feel abandoned by a system they no longer trust, by politicians from both parties, by corporate media, and yes, by the Justice Department itself. Every time Epstein's story resurfaces, it's a wound reopened. And the latest DOJ announcement? Instead of bringing closure, it's triggering fresh outrage. They're not just asking what happened. They're asking who's still being protected and why. In this video, we're going beyond the headlines. We're pulling apart the DOJ's recent actions, examining who's being charged, who's still in the shadows, and why that has Trump supporters convinced that justice is being weaponized.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Because while the DOJ claims it's taking steps toward accountability, the silence around certain names and connections only fuels suspicion. The truth is, this isn't just about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. It's about trust in American institutions, elite protection, and a political system that many feel has two sets of rules, one for the powerful and one for everyone else. Stay with us as we dive into the timeline, the reactions, and the unanswered questions that still linger. By the end of this, you'll see why millions believe the Epstein case is far from closed and why they're demanding answers louder than ever before. On July 19th, the Justice Department revealed that two new individuals, both former aides and financial handlers linked to Epstein's global network, are facing charges related to conspiracy and trafficking. According to federal officials, these arrests are meant to close the chapter on one of the most shocking criminal cases of the 21st century. But almost instantly, critics noticed what was missing. Despite Epstein's well-documented connections to high-level politicians, royals, tech billionaires, and Hollywood elites, no such figures were mentioned. No subpoenas, no statements about flight logs, no deeper dive into the island visits or the long-suspected role of intelligence agencies. To Trump supporters, and a growing number of independents, it looks like a distraction, a sacrifice of low-level operatives to protect the elite status quo. And they're not buying the closure narrative being sold.
It's the moment Jeffrey Epstein is asked about his friendship with Donald Trump, and it's going viral today.
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
For Trump supporters, the Epstein saga has long symbolized everything they believe is broken in the American justice system. Unequal accountability, media silence on key figures, and the refusal to investigate those with political power. They see it all as part of a rigged system. The new DOJ announcements did nothing to quiet those frustrations. If anything, they intensified them. Across social media platforms like Truth Social, X, formerly Twitter, and Telegram, conservative influencers and everyday supporters flooded the comment sections with a familiar refrain: "Where are the real arrests?" Many believe that Epstein's high-profile connections, especially with powerful Democrats and global elites, are being intentionally shielded. While the media runs headlines about justice being served, MAGA circles argue this is a smokescreen to avoid real accountability. Adding fuel to the fire is the timing. With the 2024 election around the corner, Trump supporters suspect the DOJ is trying to close the Epstein chapter now, before Trump regains the power to reopen it. They remember how, during Trump's presidency, documents related to Epstein's finances and flight logs mysteriously disappeared or were heavily redacted. And they haven't forgotten Bill Clinton's documented visits to Epstein's island.
You own an island,
True.
right?
Thank you very much.
Two islands, the islands of Dr. Moreau.
Correct.
A fact rarely mentioned in mainstream coverage. To them, this isn't just about Epstein. It's about systemic cover-up, political theater, and deep-rooted corruption. And the more the DOJ tries to wrap up the case with minor charges, the louder the calls for full transparency grow. As we edge closer to the 2024 election, the Epstein case is no longer just about justice. It's become a political weapon. Trump's base sees the DOJ's actions not as law enforcement but as narrative control. They believe the Biden administration and entrenched elites are scrambling to put out fires before Trump has a chance to reignite them. The theory is simple but powerful. If Trump returns to the White House, he could blow the lid off investigations that were quietly buried under bureaucratic red tape. From Epstein's flight logs to sealed court testimonies, Trump supporters argue there's a treasure trove of secrets that powerful people don't want unearthed, and they're determined to keep them hidden at all costs. Political strategists are paying close attention. For conservative candidates across the country, the Epstein issue has become a rallying cry not just about child trafficking, but about reclaiming justice from what they call the deep state. This is where the narrative shifts from conspiracy to strategy. By weaponizing distrust in the DOJ, GOP candidates are finding fertile ground among voters who feel betrayed by both parties. The left, in turn, accuses Trump and his supporters of using Epstein as a political football, a distraction from their own scandals and missteps. But it's not working. If anything, it's solidifying Trump's reputation among his base as the only one willing to take on the elite, regardless of how messy it gets. That fear, the possibility that Trump might expose secrets others would rather forget, isn't just speculative. It's reshaping campaign messaging, political endorsements, and the urgency surrounding the 2024 race. Mainstream media outlets have been cautious, some would say suspiciously so, when covering the renewed outrage over Epstein. While DOJ press briefings make headlines, the deeper frustrations from Trump supporters are rarely featured in depth. It's a pattern they've grown used to, a media ecosystem that appears more interested in shaping the narrative than exposing uncomfortable truths. Fox News has occasionally spotlighted the dissatisfaction, especially voices demanding full accountability from the DOJ and names from Epstein's infamous flight logs. But more centrist and liberal outlets tend to focus on Trump's alleged connections to Epstein, while sidestepping Clinton or royal family ties, further fueling accusations of media bias and selective outrage. This disparity in coverage has only widened the trust gap.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
For many conservatives, it's not just what the media reports, it's what they don't. Why aren't reporters digging into the sealed documents? Why are the same questions being asked year after year without answers? Why does coverage seem to vanish just as momentum builds? Podcasts, independent journalists, and online creators have rushed to fill the vacuum, offering deep dives and uncensored commentary. And it's working. Millions of viewers now turn to alternative media for updates, many of whom believe the mainstream press has become complicit in a massive cover-up. The Epstein scandal has never truly left the public consciousness. It haunts the national dialogue like a ghost of unanswered questions, unsolved mysteries, and unspoken truths.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Epstein pauses, shakes his head, then answers.
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
The deposition has resurfaced as the backlash over the Epstein files continues to dog the president.
And now, with renewed attention on the Department of Justice's actions, the demand for transparency has hit a boiling point. These questions aren't conspiracy, they're common sense, and the DOJ's incremental updates, sealed indictments, and vague press releases only deepen the distrust. For many, it feels like justice is being managed, not delivered. For Trump supporters, it's not just Epstein they're angry about. It's the system that allowed him to thrive. And make no mistake, they're watching, they're organizing, they're waiting. For justice, for accountability, for real answers, because if this system won't deliver truth, they're ready to demand it. If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We're breaking down every power play in US politics, from DC to Wall Street to behind the courtroom doors. Because what happens in silence affects your freedom, your vote, and your future.